Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius.
What small things are you overlooking that might be costing you trust, loyalty, or results? Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius. My name is Mike Marshall. Mark Ramsey will be joining us next week. Excited to be back together with him. In the meantime, let's talk about the power of attention to detail. One of the most famous stories you often hear about Disney, the Disney organization, and their attention to detail, the things that make them truly unique. And there's a story that when the Polynesian resort was being built, in the tiki room, Walt wanted what would later become animatronic animals. And he had brought back a mechanical bird from one of his trips. He gave it to the Imagineers, the Disney engineers. And he says, in this room, the Polynesian, the tiki room, I want there to be, there'll be a dining experience, but it'll be a jungle theme, and then there'll be these mechanical birds and other mechanical animals. And so the Imagineers got to work, and they created the most amazing mechanical bird on the planet at the time. The head moved, the beak opened and closed to the soundtrack. It blinked. It just was this amazing thing. And so they roll it out. They show it to Walt. Walt looks at it and goes, he says four words. Why aren't they breathing? Well, they talk, they sing, they look, they do all these other amazing things. And Walt said, no, no. If I want people to truly believe that they're alive, they have to breathe. And the Imagineers had no idea how they were going to do this. None whatsoever. But they messed around with it. They covered the chest with feathers and an inflatable bladder, and you couldn't see the chest expanding and contracting. And then one day, one of the Imagineers noticed that Walt's cashmere sweater, when he moved his arm, the material expanded and contracted. So they took the feathers off the chest of the animatronic birds. They put this material on there, and lo and behold, you could see the attention to detail. The bird looked like it was breathing. And Disney became famous for all those little attention to detail things where good wasn't good enough, right? Right. What would be the next step? What would be the next tiny detail that would make it amazing? So when you think about it, right, people don't judge us by the effort. They judge us by the experience. Nobody knew how long it took Walt and his Imagineers to make a bird breathe, but they did know that it was amazing, right? It was an incredible experience when you finally noticed it. Now, had as many of you know, was I was out hiking in Patagonia, and we had a couple of guides, had a really nice guide company, and they provided us with two guides. And in the morning of the hike, the hostel that we were staying at, they would provide you with a bag lunch. It was, a few little snacks, and then some sort of sandwich that was 90% bread, about the size of a football. And on the sandwich was a thin layer of, bruschetto or something like that, and a slice of cheese. And, you're hiking, you're hungry. So the very first day we get to the halfway point in our hike, we sit down, the guide said, hey, let's stop here for lunch. We sit down for lunch, we open our sandwich, and the guide say, hang on. And they dig around in their packs and they pull out fresh avocado. Right, they open the avocados up, they walk around, they cut slices off for each sandwich for everybody in our group. And then Max pulls out of his backpack, right? He's got a bottle of his own homemade sriracha sauce. So they put sriracha on all the sandwiches. And then Francisco, he pulls out a bottle of pesto. It's the most amazing pesto, right? And anybody who wants some, he puts it on the sandwich. So he takes this average sandwich and with a little attention to detail, turns it into this magnificent feast. And they did that for all 4 days that we had lunch on the trail. And when you think about it, right, weight is incredibly important. Reducing weight is incredibly important when you're hiking. And so these guys carried 10 to 15 pounds of avocado bottles of sriracha sauce, bottles of pesto, for miles and miles, through the mountains, just to make sure that our sandwiches had that little extra attention to detail that made them great. It was phenomenal. All right, I'm still talking about it if you think about it. So think about, all right, what are the applications to this in real life? And I do a lot of training programs. Mark and I do a lot of training, and there's three things that I do that seem to get noticed. The first is I use a very for handouts, I use a very high quality, bright, heavy paper. It's just a step up from your normal copy paper, but it's a little brighter, a little heavier, and I can't tell you how many times it's been noticed, and I don't know how many times it's been noticed. But I do know how many times it's been called out. And so that tells me there's probably a lot of other people who are aware of it but don't say anything. And I'll hand them a handout and they'll pick it up and they'll be like, ooh, yeah, look at this paper. This is nice. I do enjoy a good paper. And they'll talk about it, and sometimes I'll hear, you know, where I work, they would never let us have paper this nice, right? Just too much, too expensive. And so I know that the paper resonates. Another thing that we do when we do training is we provide ink pens. We provide the Sharpie S Gel. Probably the finest mass-produced pen on the planet. It's just a fabulous writing. It feels good in your hand. It writes great. I get them anywhere from 92 cents to $1 per pen. And I know that those are appreciated because at the end of any given class, I lose about 50% of them. They just walk away. And so, people will comment on them and talk about them. People will buy them for themselves. They absolutely love these pens. And then the last thing that gets the frequent comments is the flip charts. So if I know that a discussion is coming up in a session, before the session begins, I'll create a flip chart with the header of that discussion. If there's different category breakouts, I'll label those and everything so that when the discussion begins, I flip the piece of paper over, the blank piece of paper, and there is the flip chart ready to chart the discussion. And I always looked at this as, wanting to appear professional, wanting it to, look like I had a plan for what we were about to talk about. What was interesting was that the people who comment on it, they told me something that I hadn't considered. They said that the prepared, in advance flip charts demonstrated respect for their time. Respect for their time. Instead of me flipping over to a blank flip chart and writing the headers and stuff while they watched me, undertake this administrative process, basically, they absolutely loved that it was ready to go and that there was no lost time. So start to think about, right, what are your attention to detail things? What are those little things that if you plussed it up just a little would make a noticeable difference. Right. So you think about, what are your non-breathing birds? What is it that looks fine, but maybe it just doesn't feel right? What details have you normalized? What are the things that are just normal now, but are slowly eroding trust, maybe eroding loyalty, and maybe making it difficult to get the results that you want? Um, so think about the details as your expression of love. Right? The details are how love shows up. Love for what you do and love for the people that you're working with. And when you think about it, remember that it matters. Right? Those small attention to details. Anybody can be good, but we truly admire those people who take the time to make it great. And greatness is not some large, huge act. Greatness can simply be found in the pen, the paper, the preparedness, right? The expansion and contraction of the animatronic bird's chest. What are your non-breathing birds and how can you make them better? If you'd like help brainstorming on this topic, by all means, Let us know. We would be happy to discuss this with you. We've seen a lot of amazing things in our life, always looking to help people take it to the next level. Respond, a like, a comment, a subscribe. Always happy to add to our audience. And with that, we'll turn it over to two people who absolutely demonstrate attention to detail. Our announcer, the always professional Mr. Wolf, and of course, accompanied by Mark Ramsey with an amazing ukulele solo. Where else are you going to get this kind of stuff on the internet? Only here at It Doesn't Take a Genius. Take it away, Mr. Wolf.
And that's a wrap. The musings of Mark and Mike. No rights reserved, etc. Feel free to share and discuss what you heard today. Even claim the ideas as your own. Who'd want to do that? See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.